In China and in most other countries, these imputations don't exist. If there are no actual cash flows to count, it doesn't get put into their GDP figures. The second point relates to how far our dollars actually go in the market compared to elsewhere. Construction spending is a major component of GDP, both in the United States and in China. $1.1 trillion in the US and $1.2 trillion in China. So it's about the same. But it's not really the same at all. China produced 1.3 billion tons of steel in 2022, compared to 97 million tons in the United States. China builds lots of high-speed rail, and the US famously doesn't build any. Tens of thousands of apartment buildings and bridges and highways and airports and ports. Almost all of them were built in the past 20 years, all paid for supposedly with the same notional dollar value that we spend in the US, where we did not do those things. The third problem is the comparison of our services sectors. China has 4 times the population of the United States, but has fewer than half as many attorneys. The United States has more than 5 times as many accountants, 15 times as many investment advisors. The American lobbying industry in the United States has no real equivalent anywhere in the whole world, let alone China. And all those jobs are highly paid in the United States. There are many more people working in those jobs and at far higher pay. That translates into more lawsuits, more insurance premiums, auditing work, crafting and enforcement of legislation that make all those lobbyist jobs worth the money they're paid, and so on. Whether or not all of this contribute anything meaningful is a good question, but they all count toward US GDP in a way that's unique to every other economy in the world. So what if we took all these services sectors out of the GDP calculation entirely and looked instead at productive GDP? How many actual products and tradable goods are being produced? Were we to exclude the components of GDP such as financial services, insurance, legal, and lobbying, how do things look now? First, again, we have GDP calculated in the traditional way with all the imputations and dollar cost problems. Then this one is by purchasing power parity, which suddenly looks very different. But measuring productive GDP means that China's economy is 3 times the size of the United States. In fact, China's economy is bigger than the next 4 combined. The UK and France go away completely out of the top 10. Indonesia moves ahead of Japan. Turkey comes in at number 8, and Turkey didn't show up in the top 10 in either GDP or in purchasing power parity. Counting GDP this way, differently, by productivity, puts these other statistics into sharper focus. For years, China has led the world in patents. These are data from 2021. And in these fields where you see a big red piece of the pie, that's China. Overall, it's 38% of all the patents, and China is by far the biggest piece of all these industries. A massive productive economy means massive levels of port activity, raw materials inbound, finished products being shipped out. 7 of the top 10 busiest ports in the world are China. Factories require lots of energy to run, and China consumes more electricity than the US, India, Russia, Japan, Brazil, and Canada combined. These are questions that economists are struggling with, and they're the same questions faced by anyone who's lived here a while and just looked around. Entire factory zones were built for the same notional dollar value as a single factory in the US or in Europe. China builds entire metro lines, subway systems, for about what we spend to build a new subway station. We're measuring everything wrong, and we believe things that are not true. This is Zhongshan in Guangdong Province. Be good.